Hey kiddies, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and this week we are looking at WTF movie musicals, guest starring Satan. Our menu includes South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, The Phantom of the Paradise, and Forbidden Zone. Stop giving me that look. You're weird for not owning one of these things. These are movies that are at their core musicals, but also you're not really sure what you're looking at through at least half, if not most, of the film. And as a result, it's just a hell of a lot of fun. And, for varying degrees of purposefulness for the plot, Satan is there. You know you're in trouble when the sanest movie on your triple feature is the South Park movie. This was made back in 1999 to cash in on the fun and popularity of the South Park TV show. They didn't want a situation like Beavis and Butthead Do America, where 10 years after it was popular, they decided to make a movie for it, or The Simpsons for that matter, waiting about 20. Yeah, it's kind of weird. The thing is, Trey Parker is really into musicals, considering how often the characters will burst into songs on the cartoon show. It's not really that much of a surprise that the movie he makes is a musical. And it is really, really funny and really, really good. Stephen Sondheim actually wrote a letter to Matt and Trey congratulating them on the movie because it was such a good musical, and he was very impressed. It sends up a lot of different musicals, especially Les Mis and Oklahoma and various Disney films. The core of the conflict is between the parents of South Park and the entire rest of the world, specifically Canada, over a film that is apparently rotting the minds of their kids. Unbeknownst to the parents of South Park or Canada or anybody else, if they go through with this ridiculous war based on the Terrence and Phillip movie, this will be the last sign that the apocalypse has arrived and Satan will be able to take over the planet. And this has got Satan, excited at the prospect of getting out of hell than of crushing humanity, as opposed to, his homosexual lover, Saddam Hussein. This was back when Saddam was alive. Well, alive in real life, but dead in the movie. It's confusing. Just watch it and enjoy. I really love the songs. Actually, all the movies on this triple feature, I have the majority of the songs on my MP3 player pretty much all the time. Especially both versions of What Would Brian Boitano Do, and of course the Oscar-nominated Blame Canada. Phantom of the Paradise is a 1970s movie musical directed by Brian De Palma. Now, if that doesn't send you screaming and running away just to begin with, keep in mind that this might be Brian De Palma at his most Brian De Palma-iest, at least until the Femme Fatale movie. There is a story. There is a coherent narrative to the film. Winslow Leach is an aspiring musician, singer-songwriter who gets betrayed by Swan, played by Paul Williams, the writer of the Rainbow Connection song, portraying the epitome of rock and roll evil in an evil record producer, creating a horrible situation upon horrible situation, turning Winslow into the titular Phantom of the Paradise. The Paradise being Swan's Xanadu-esque concert hall. The thing is, while there is a plot and characters and some pretty good songs by Paul Williams, it's also just a never-ending cornucopia of movie references. I mean, Brian De Palma is essentially making a movie that would make Quentin Tarantino's head spin, between the classical references of just the Phantom of the Opera, Dr. Faustus, Frankenstein, Edgar Allan Poe's Cask of Amontillado, to then just movie references. There's Orson Welles. There's a whole crane shot that's right out of Touch of Evil. There's Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho gets referenced in this, and the movie version of the Phantom of the Opera. This is before you even get into just the songs, which are essentially the same tune. going through different permutations depending on the act portraying them. Sort of like The Long Goodbye, where John Williams had one song done in just about every conceivable musical genre. And on top of all of this, it's just weird. It is just a weird, weird movie. It's hard to describe it. It's you're gonna get vibes from the Rocky Horror Picture Show and just the whole supernatural, musical horror movie and or sci-fi movie references. But it's not that. But it's a hell of a lot of fun. It also has great performances by William Finley as Winslow's Leech and later the Phantom. It's the first movie for Jessica Harper, who would later go on to be in Suspiria, which we talked about a month ago in the late horror movie Ladies' Night triple feature. And a surprisingly great Garrett Graham. He pops up, and he's a that guy. He pops up notably in Robert Zemeckis' Used Cars or Child's Play 2. And he's usually playing a bit of a stiff. And here he's Beef, the fruitcake glam rocker who's really, really impressive. Unfortunately, he's not singing. He's like the only guy not performing his own singing voice, but his little dance number on the opening of the Paradise is really, really good. At one point, Swan is going to kill himself, and he gets offered the Faustian deal, and he's played by Paul Williams, who, acting as a reflection of his inner self. And then, since he's the one making all the contracts, he's actually our pseudo-Satan throughout the whole movie. This movie in which at any given moment you'll just stare at it and go, what is going on? Finally, we have Forbidden Zone. And if you've never heard of this, that is okay. It is one of the cultiest of cult movies. And while I don't think that Richard Elfman and company set out to make the most offensive film ever made, it is in the running for the most offensive film ever made. It's an outgrowth of Richard Elfman's theater troupe at the time, the Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo. And if Oingo Boingo sounds familiar to you, it should, because they were a new wave band who gave us such hits as Dead Man's Party, No One Lives Forever, and the title song from Weird Science. This was Danny Elfman's band. Danny Elfman started out as part of the theater troupe with his brother Richard, the Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo, and they provide all the music for this film. This film that is really disturbing on a lot of different levels. Frame of reference, back when we used to do the Cavalcade of Schlock, we did a musical night where we showed Repo, and then Repo the Genetic Opera, and then Forbidden Zone. And after everybody had finished having a great time singing and dancing along with Repo, their jaws were all on the floor at what they were watching with Forbidden Zone, because you never know what you're actually looking at, but what you're looking at is usually horrible. It was made more as an experiment than anything else. Richard Elfman was sort of just testing out to see if he could do it. And it was also not really designed to be one coherent film. They were basically recording little performances, or they were recording things that they would have performed in the normal theater group. And then afterwards, they started adding some connective story tissue surrounding the Hercules family, who live in a horrific house on I'm going with, I think, the suburbs of LA. And their basement just happens to be have a doorway to the sixth dimension, the titular Forbidden Zone. And in the Forbidden Zone, you will just find hell. I am convinced it's just hell. The sixth dimension is hell. I never want to go there. Its king is Hervé Villechaize, Tattoo from Fantasy Island, and also Scaramanga's sidekick in The Man with the Golden Gun. Susan Turrell plays the queen. Their daughter, the princess, runs around with no shirt, ever. She sort of gets the Matilda May Award for perpetual nudity. Frenchie Hercules and Flash Hercules end up going into the Forbidden Zone and just basically trying to make their way through it. There's just, everything is revolting in this movie, but the songs get to be really catchy, including one of my favorite songs from the film, when Squeeze It the Hercules family friend, ends up in the Forbidden Zone and meets up with Satan, this time played by Danny Elfman. That's right, the composer for just about every Tim Burton movie, and the singing voice of Jack Skellington from A Nightmare Before Christmas. He plays Satan, a la Cab Calloway, because the song they're singing is essentially Minnie the Moocher, because Danny Elfman really, really loves Cab Calloway, which, if you know that, puts the whole Oogie Boogie sequence in Nightmare Before Christmas in a whole new light. Satan wants the princess, so he makes a deal with Squeeze-It to help him out if he gets the princess, and who wouldn't? She's sort of cute, even with her shirt on. There's just all sorts of weird things. There's a lot more blackface than you'd want in any movie. It's presented more as a send-up or mocking older films that used to use this often, but I'm pretty sure they weren't obvious enough with it because people got really angry about it, for good reason, because it's blackface. There's a lot of torture, a lot of bondage, a lot of frog people, a lot of kipper kids, and just I never know what's going on when I watch it, and it kind of scares me. It almost made it onto the triple feature of movies I can't get anybody to watch. The reason it's not on there is because I never try to get anybody to watch this one. I've shown people clips, and they run away screaming usually. So these are what the fuck movie musicals that guest star Satan, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, Phantom of the Paradise, and Forbidden Zone. Say, see you next week, Phantom. See you next week, Phantom. Oh, you.